Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order for our school board meeting, November 16th. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Mullet?
Present.
Mr. Hennegan?
Here.
Ms. Heintz? Here. Mr. Durbin? Mr. Luke?
Here.
Mr. Harrell?
Here.
Mr. Nation?
Here.
Mr. Jeter?
Here.
Mrs. Seeley? Mrs. Drucker? Here. Mr. Bittencourt?
Present here.
Mr. Womack?
Here.
Mr. Hersey?
Here.
Mr. Kuzan?
Here.
Mrs. Bellisario? Here.
Thank you, Mrs. Coakley. Would everyone please rise and join as Mr. Loop says the invocation and leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we ask for your assistance tonight in those decisions that we make as a board. Please protect our students, parents, and school personnel over this holiday week. We truly appreciate your watching over us. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Loop. School board members, do we have any recognition of visitors that any one of you would like to recognize? Okay, seeing none. We're going to go to our public comments. We had no one sign up for 5 minutes. Mrs. Coakley, no one for 3 minutes as well. All right, moving right along. We're going to move to our agenda items. Agenda item A, to consider and take action with respect to adopting a resolution recognizing the final form and execution of the bond purchase agreement in connection with the issuance and sale of 25 million general obligation school bonds, Series 2017A, of St. Tammany Parish-wide School District Number 12, of the Parish of St. Tammany, State of Louisiana, and providing for other matters in consideration therewith.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Nation. It was seconded by Mr. Jeter. And I have comments from Mr. Sluter. Mr. Sluter, thank you for joining
with Foley
us.
Udell Bond Counsel and Stephanie Ferry with Raymond James, Municipal Advisor, or AKA Financial Advisor. I'm sorry, underwriter. You previously authorized the pricing of the 25 million GO issue. It's the last new money issue you have. It's from the 2008 election authorization. The bonds, in accordance with your prior authority, were priced by the underwriter on November 7th. And pursuant to the prior authorization, the superintendent executed the bond purchase agreement. Stephanie is going to give you the results of that sale in just a minute. You did maintain your bond rating, as we discussed, and again, the report, if you get a chance to read it, mentions again the very, very strong finances of the St. Tammany Parish School Board, that you handle your finances well, and the low debt of the school system to the taxpayers of the parish. So very good, and this issue will be delivered on December 12th, so the money will be in the bank at that time and available for actual projects. And Stephanie is going to give you the results of the pricing and the sale of the bonds.
Thank you. Good evening. They always say it's better to be lucky than right, and y'all really timed the sale of your bonds as well as it possibly could be timed. We mentioned at the last meeting how there were proposed tax changes that would limit the ability for issuers to access the tax-exempt market. That caused a huge demand to flood the market to snap up whatever tax-exempt bonds may get issued before the end of the year. And so you sold on December 7th. Rates every day prior to that had been higher. And then after you sold your bonds, there were some proposed amendments that would allow a little bit more of tax-exempt bonds to be issued, and rates have come up every day since then. So you really hit it at exactly the right time. The bonds were sold with a premium of $2,657,000. So you had will have total proceeds after you take out the expenses associated with the issue of $2,399,293. So, you had a little bit over 10% in premium. I know I had not wanted to get into exactly how much premium at the last meeting, and that's because prior sets of numbers that we were looking at, we were estimating that premium would only be around 5%. So you ended up with a much greater premium than we had expected, and that is in large part to the high level of demand that came into the market the day that you priced. You ended up with a true interest cost of $284, and once you take into account all of the expenses associated with the transaction and the premium that you'll receive, that all-inclusive cost is a $289. So an excellent cost of funds, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Board members, do we have any questions? Okay,
Very good.
all right, well,
Just one, if we might.
Yes.
One observation. We went back and looked at your new money bond issues, 20-year new money bond issues that you've done since 2009, and you did 10 bond issues for construction funds. And this, only one of those 10 had a lower interest rate. So you did hit the market right, and that's very good, 2.84 for a 20-year bond issue. So it's an excellent sale result. And if I could just mention one other thing.
Absolutely.
And that is that Stephanie referred to the Tax Reform Act, and of course we know that the House version passed this afternoon. In its present form, at least in the House version, it would eliminate advance refunding bonds such that you would not be able to take advantage of low interest rates and refund prior to the call date, 90 days of the call date on the old bond issue. You and many other public bodies have used this extensively over the years. You know you've saved the taxpayers over $11.5 million in payments on various general obligation bonds. But again, I just mentioned that because regardless of where the tax bill comes out, and no one can really predict what the final version will be, or if there will be a final version, you have taken advantage of the ability to refinance at extremely low interest rates, and we have seen very low interest rates in recent years. So all those tax savings to taxpayers are locked in.
thank
Thank
you
you.
very, very much. Thank you both, Mr. Sluter and Ms. Ferry. What a wonderful report, and so we have no questions from board members, no comments. Any other questions or any other comments from the public? Okay, we have a motion to accept on the table. Oh, okay, and we can vote by machine. Okay, we can close voting. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Wonderful news. Okay, we're moving right along. Approval of the minutes for the special meeting held October 5th. Do I have a motion? Mr. All right, Mr. Womack? Was that Mr. Betancourt? I'm sorry, Mr. Hershey. Okay. Any comments from board members? Comments from the public? All those in favor? Oh, well, I'm sorry, excuse me. New place. We could vote on the machines, please. Vote on the machines, please. We're doing all our voting on the machines, yes, sir. Okay, that passed, motion passed. Thank you very much. Agenda item C, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held October 12th. Do I have a motion to accept those? Ms. Drucker? Ms. Seeley seconds that. Any comments or questions from board members? Comments from the public? Seeing none, would you please vote? Ms. Bellisario? There you go. All right, thank you. Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. One abstention. Got that? Okay, thank you. All right. Appropriate retirement resolution for the following certificated personnel subsequent to October 12th. Mr. Jabbia, do you have that report for us?
Thank you, Ms. Mullett. I do. Julie V. Mott, Central Office, 26.35 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. Bonnie W. Bernstein, Covington High, 35.27 years, 14.27 years in St. Tammany Parish. Pamela P. Meyer, Woodlake Elementary, 22.40 years, all in St. Tammany Parish.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Heintz and seconded by Mr. Luke. I do have a comment. We sure are going to miss Dr. Mott. She was just a fabulous woman, and she did so much for this school system, as all, you know, most of our employees do, but I am going to miss her. Any other comments from board members? Comments from the public? Please vote. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Appropriate retirement resolution for the following non-certificated personnel subsequent to October 12th. Mr. Jabbia again.
Thank you. Diane S. Bourdonnais, Abney Early Childhood Center, 10.06 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. Deborah D. Major, Bayou Lacombe Middle, 28.43 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. Linda L. Bouchereau, Covington High, 8.94 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. Dennis R. Willie, Covington Maintenance, 20.87 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. Susan T. Crawford, Fifth Ward Junior High, 20.68 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. Hilda Washington, Fountain Blue Junior High, 10.09 years, all in St. Tammany Parish. And Elaine M. Fuller, Information Technology, 28.82 years, all in St. Tammany Parish.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jabbia, for that. Motion was made by Mr. Womack and seconded by Mrs. Drucker. Womack, excuse me. Any comments from board members or questions? Comments from the public? Please vote. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Agenda item F. Approval of recommendation from the committee as a whole meeting for Human Resources Education held October 2nd. Mrs. Heintz.
Thank you, Ms. Mullett.
Thank you.
We did meet on the 2nd, and we had several informative reports from our curriculum department. But in addition to that, we have one recommendation this evening, and that is that we recommend approval of the Veterans Resolution that was so eloquently read by Mr. Betancourt.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to move that we accept that resolution into our minutes.
Okay. Mr. Betancourt, would you like to second that? Absolutely.
You don't want me to read it again?
No, that's okay. I wouldn't mind you reading again because you did such a great job, but it's okay. Any other comments from board members? Comments from the public? Seeing none, if we could vote, please, to accept that resolution. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. And is that all, Ms. Heintz? Thank you very much. Okay, now we have the approval of recommendation from the committee as a whole meeting for Business Affairs Administrative held November 2nd. Mr. Nation.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee as a whole for Business Affairs did meet November 2nd, and we have one recommendation to accept Abney Elementary School library renovation as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Folt's STPPS project number 1426.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hershey and seconded by Mr. Kuzan. Any comments or questions from board members on that? Comments from the public? Seeing none, if we could vote. Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
And that concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. Okay, next item, to consider a resolution calling for a tenure hearing pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 17:493. Mr. Jabber, you have comments on that?
Yes, ma'am. We are requesting the recommendation for this resolution for a tenure hearing on one of our employees, and by law, Mr. Foltz will set the date in the very near future for that tenure hearing. But we do need acceptance of this resolution.
Absolutely.
I'll second.
I'm sorry. So moved. Ms. Drucker? Mr. Jeter? Seconded that? Okay, second that motion. Do we have any questions from board members or comments from board members on this? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, if you could vote, please. Mr. Luke. Mr. Luke? For some reason, it didn't catch. Okay. Motion carried. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Jabbia, we'll be waiting for that date. Thank you very much. Okay, next, certification of board members. Neal M. Hennegan, Elizabeth B. Heintz, Michael J. Derman, Stephen J. Jack Luke III, Charles T. Harrell, Michael C. Nation, Peggy H. Seeley, Sharon Lo Drucker, Ronald Ron Betancourt, Robert R. Bob Womack, Richard Ricky Hergy Jr., Robin P. Mullett, Dennis S. Kuzan, and Mary K. Bellisario, in completion with 1 hour of training for 2017 presented on November 2nd, 2017, as mandated by Louisiana Revised Statute 17:53. Remarks by Mr. Foltz. Mr. Foltz?
Thank you, Ms. Mullett. Do indeed certify that the board members that you named didn't complete the training as required on the date November 2nd, 2017.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Foltz. I do have a couple of announcements tonight. Schools will be closed November 20th through the 24th for the Thanksgiving holidays. The offices will be closed half a day on November 22nd through the 24th. The next committee as a whole meeting will be held Thursday, December 7th in Covington at 7 p.m. Board members, at your desk is this tiny little package. Thanksgiving reading, Mr. Jabbia said, it is section G of our policy, and we will be reviewing that before the December 7th meeting. We're going to start that at 5 o'clock. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, at 5 o'clock. And Mr. Jabbia will send a reminder email, correct, Mr. Jabbia? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Seeing no further business, meeting adjourned. Thank you.